Hi, everybody. I'm Dave.
And I'm Kevin Costner.
Wait a minute.
All right. I'm not Kevin Costner. I'm Billy Butcher.
I'm still not sure about that.
All right. I'm John.
All right. Hi, John. And this is Coffee and Capes, our
Yay!
podcast about two of our favorite things, drinking coffee and talking about geek culture.
Yes. So good. I missed last week, but man, what a great episode. It was just really I listened to it. Obviously, I how am I going to miss an episode where my wonderful, amazing best friend interviews a fantastic talent in Ruben,
right?
Right, just like a multi-talented, and to especially as a comic book fan and as a writer, right, as a writer myself, to hear his process and the overall process for the creation of the best Archie comic ever was awesome, like super enthralling for me and really fascinating. Like, guys, if you haven't listened to it yet, please go back and listen to it. It was really great, and it makes me want to just interview like everybody in the industry to hear and learn more about it,
Right. Yeah.
So it's so good. Thank you for doing that while I was gone and far away in a galaxy called Nevada.
Most like our own. Almost like our own.
Yeah, Nevada. It was beautiful out there, though. I'm not gonna lie, it was absolutely gorgeous. Like Sierra Nevada mountains, beautiful territory.
Yeah, well, we definitely missed you, and hopefully for our next interview you can be part of that and bring all of your wit and wisdom and curiosity to that. But I really did have a good time meeting Ruben and learning about his process and his passions, and seems like a really good guy, and what we used to call a Renaissance man, like does a little bit of everything, like just crazy talented. Cool. So really appreciated him taking some time. And if you haven't listened to our previous episode, I believe it was number 44, please do. Like it was really interesting to get the backstory there. At least I was geeking out on hearing all about the process. Cool. And he's got some really good things to say and some encouraging things to say. If you've ever wanted to be a creative person, I think he's got some encouragement for you and some wise words and an offer to help. So,
which is fantastic, because I'm definitely going to reach out.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about community on this here podcast, and it seemed to me he embodies that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's in when I did my master's in creative writing for film, and it was all about like writing scripts and screenplays, but one of the classes that I took, you got to pick a medium that you were going to write for, for that period of that class. And we had a professor who had, and I didn't even know this was a thing that was possible, a PhD in comics.
Wow.
A PhD in comic books, right? Like the history of like I had no idea. He was an amazing professor. I'd have to go and look his name up because it's been like a decade. But I chose comic books as my medium, and I got to learn about,
of course you did.
How of course I did. Yeah. And I got to learn about that process of writing. And I don't know if anybody really caught it when Ruben was talking about it, but the script is really created first and then acts as a guideline for the artist to then generate the pages, right? Like on a script, you are literally like, this page has this many panels, and panel 1 is this, and panel 2 is this, and panel 3 is this, and panel 4 is this. And it was really interesting to learn that, because it changed completely how I thought comic books were done, like honestly. But it made total sense when I learned, and hearing him talk about it, like,
and the collaborative process cool. Where he's like, well, it could be panel 1. Here's panel 1, panel 2, panel 3. And the artist comes back and says, well, I could do this so that we, instead of having 3 panels, we have one big one. And just that kind of thing, like letting the art,
their ideas to like overlap like a character going through. Yeah, we've seen some you know, some pretty amazing and I would say non-traditional, you know, comic book paneling done and pages done in recent years, especially with, you know, the first thing that comes to mind is like Something is Killing the Children
Yeah.
and Department of Truth both do very kind of non-traditional paneling at times and page layout at times.
Right.
So
My
and it
my only complaint about that as a reader is it's not always clear how to navigate the page.
it takes a little bit, yeah, it takes a minute to like figure out, like with Something is Killing the Children, to understand like sometimes it goes all the way across both pages,
yeah.
all the way across, all the way across, and it took me a minute to kind of go, I have to pay close attention to what I'm reading and not
Mhm.
just follow in what I think is the traditional format.
Right. Or there was one recent I almost said episode issue of, I think, House of Slaughter. Well, I don't know if it was recent. One of the issues of House of Slaughter where it was going across timelines, but so the visual was multiple timelines, but the dialogue was going across those timelines.
Right. Yeah.
So it seemed like
and
to follow the timeline would be going one way, but to follow the dialogue, you had to go the other. So it took me a minute to figure that out, but it was brilliant.
yeah, and you know, another comic that did that I just recently started reading. I've been getting into John Constantine,
Okay.
Hellblazer stuff. It's so good. It's so good. He's such a great character. But one of the issues I just read, like there's a conversation he's having going through what is essentially like the 9-layer, like Dante's 9 layers of hell,
Yeah.
with a demon, but it's like, how do you put it? It's like a nightclub, right? That a
Okay.
demon made on Earth that's for all these people, and they're essentially people are signing souls over. It's really fascinating. Anyway, but as he's walking through, right, they're having a conversation on this level, and then it gets down here, and the conversation doesn't pick up exactly where it ends on that level, right? It's as though they were still talking down through the stairs, and
Yeah.
it picks up wherever that conversation was when they hit the bottom of the stairs that you didn't hear.
Oh, wow.
So it was a little like it was a little jarring because I was like,
Sure.
am
Yeah.
I missing something? I had to go back and forth a couple times, and I was
Yeah.
like, nope, okay, now I get it. Like this is like if you were watching somebody have the conversation through the different levels, but you just missed what was going on in the stairwell.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It was good.
Right.
It was good. I like it. While it can be frustrating, like I agree with you, to at first, once you figure out the artistic flow to it, it's always cool to see something different.
For sure. Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, you know, like a girl Hulk.
It's so different. How dare they?
Anyway,
You're ruining my comics.
that's right. I'm gonna keep going.
Breathe, everybody, breathe.
Yeah, you're
So
alive. Like,
you have found us in some manner or another. If you found us on YouTube, hi.
hi guys.
John, remind the people about all the ways they can find us and connect with us, please.
Yeah, if you are finding us on YouTube, that means I finally was able to catch up with uploading all the videos. But go to YouTube, find us on YouTube. I'm gonna work this weekend to get all the episodes like uploaded. I don't know why you'd watch us on YouTube, but hey, thanks for doing so. You can find us
fantastically good-looking people.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah, right. So we are on all your favorite like podcast listening channels, you know, Spotify, iTunes, Google, Stitcher, you name it, we're out there. So if you're giving us a listen there, please give us a review, right? We do appreciate reviews. 5 stars are great. We accept 4 stars. We'll take a 3-star, I guess. If it's a 1 or 2, you just keep it to yourself. No,
yeah. Or send us an email and tell us why you want to think it's.
Yeah, send us an email. As a matter of fact, you can send us an email at supers@coffee, the letter N, the word capes.com. We have a website, coffee, the letter N, the word capes.com. Or if you want the easiest route to go, you just go into your little URL thingy on the interwebs and you type in comics.coffee. That'll take you to our wonderful, amazing website where we have new comics. We have amazing coffee. It is heroically
great coffee, actually.
Heroically great coffee. We've got mystery boxes that are super boxes. We call them super boxes, but they're kind of a mystery box. Bunch of different tiers of that: bronze, silver, gold, platinum. The higher up tier you buy, the more comics and higher value comics you get, along with an amazing bag of coffee. We've got signed, graded, all kinds of stuff, and blogs. Dave writes a nice blog once a week for us, on
Ish.
our
Once a
kind of
week ish.
once a week ish. He's working on
Give or
it,
give or
gang.
take a Labor Day off here or there.
He's working on it. I'm keeping up with it. You can find us on socials as well. Coffee _ the letter N _ capes. Same on Twitter. And then on Facebook, we're just Coffee and Capes. So those are all the channels you can find us on. And again, guys, like, give us a review. If you've bought our coffee, please give us a review on our coffee as well. What you like, what you don't like. Yeah, reviews are important, especially as a small business, as a podcast, all those things. It does help us in the algorithm world. Stupid algorithms.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. We don't have
yeah.
any giant corporations or even any small corporations behind us, like promoting our work. We just do this for the love of it and because we enjoy having the small business together. But so
Yeah,
yeah, those reviews
exactly.
really help us. So thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Thank you so much. All right, Dave.
Do we have a coffee today? What's our coffee of the day?
You know, I thought I had the bag behind me, but I don't. But our coffee today, just because it's kind of forefront in my mind, is Harlene's Delight. Harlene's Delight is a flavored coffee, guys. It is mixed with the flavors of dark rum, coconut, I believe a little bit of vanilla. Has a really, people love that coffee. Like the people who
People
drink
that
it
like
and
that.
buy it,
Yeah.
they are
Right.
I want to give a shout out to Todd Stevens. Todd is a customer who buys Harlene's Delight, and Todd buys that stuff like clockwork. And he loves that coffee.
Nice.
Scott's
Thanks,
wife,
Todd.
right? Scott's wife loves that coffee.
Yep.
Like there are a lot of
Thank you,
people.
Courtney.
Yep. Thank you, Courtney. A lot of people who are big fans of that one. And as just general fans of Harley Quinn, right? The cartoon, the character, the comic book, you name it. Just one of our favorite characters. Also, they got picked up for a 4th season. The cartoon did by HBO. So
Yay.
nice job. That makes us happy. So yeah, Harlene's Delight now available at our website. You can find it there along with Merv Pumpkin Spice.
I was going to say we need to mention the Merv pumpkin spice. Like it is that time of year. People that like their pumpkin spice love their pumpkin spice.
Yep. And this is a limited roast coffee, which brings me to the point of sad news bears. As Guardian Amber has run its course, I've got to remember to take it down. Today, I think we might have 1 or 2 bags left, but it is.
Aww.
Wah, wah, wah. Wah, wah, wah. But it has been replaced by Merv pumpkin spice, and like you said, people love their pumpkin spice coffee this time of year in the fall. We will have a couple other like holiday roasts coming, limited edition holiday roasts in the next like couple weeks or so, because holy crap, it's fall.
Tis indeed.
Yeah. So that is our coffee.
Excellent. Thank you. Fan fiction? You got a fan fiction today?
I do not have a fan fiction today, unfortunately.
Either,
although I bet you I can find one really quick.
Although I would, you know what? I would we could, that's fine too. But while you're seeing if there is one, you can tell we prepare a lot for these podcasts. That's where we're all about that. Ruben last week in the episode mentioned that he loves our bags, the bags of coffee, the design on the bags. So thank you,
Thanks,
Ruben. For that, for noticing that, and for saying that.
Yeah, that was really nice. When I heard that made me feel happy and joyous. You know, we do work hard and to try and, you know, make nice things. This is why we can't have nice things. But we do, we try to work hard to create stuff that's, you know, that we're proud of and we hope people like. And so that was really nice to hear that from a creative individual.
Yep.
Again, you know, guys, please leave us your reviews. Send in what you think. what you like, what you don't like. Genuinely, you help shape kind of what we do around here. We are community driven, like we said.
Yep, absolutely. Sweet. So
Moving on.
yes, today our topic, the topic du jour. See, I'm throwing in my little French there.
Yeah, I heard that. I'm moving on. Oh, wait, before we move on, please remember, support small businesses. Visit Ladybird Provisions for coffee bombs. It's about the time of year where they can start sending out the ones that I love so much.
Let's go.
Yeah, right.
Yay.
Nicole and Sarah, like, fantastic business, amazing product. And also give a listen to the guys over at Genre Geeks. They're pretty amazing.
They are. They're entertaining as all get out.
They are going to be at, sorry, I just want to point this out because they are going to be at, I'm looking it up. I'm doing things. I'm working behind the scenes.
Or in this case, in front of the scenes.
Right? They are going to be at Dallas Fan Festival. And they're going to be walking around Dallas Fan Festival with some cards from us that will have, you scan it and it'll take you to a web page with some deals and specials just for folks from Dallas that are enjoying Dallas Fan Festival.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So thanks to the Genre Geeks guys.
Thanks, guys.
Also, we're going to be joining them on their podcast when She-Hulk's run its course to give our final thoughts on She-Hulk. So that's pretty great.
Yeah.
And I want to give a shout out to one other business, guys, just so you know, like, even though we sell comics, like, we still support other comic book shops. Like, we buy from other comic book shops.
Yep.
And I want to give a shout out to Frank from Coffee and a Comic. We send Frank coffee sometimes. He sends out little bags of coffee in his with orders that he gets in. But Frank just opened a physical location for the first time out in Huntington Beach. So if you're in the Huntington Beach area, stop by and see Frank at Coffee and a Comic. Tell him the Coffee and Capes guys sent you. Say hi.
Nice.
There you go. That's my pitch to support small businesses.
Excellent.
Moving on.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled review of The Boys.
Kevin Costner.
I don't think Kevin Costner. I've watched them all. I don't think Kevin Costner is in The Boys.
All right, that's fine. He should be. Yeah. Have we ever reviewed The Boys in general? Never have, right?
No,
I don't think so.
I mean, it's come up in passing, I'm sure, a couple times. Like it came up when we did the episode on, what were we talking about? Something about like Superman. Strongest there is.
Yeah, because we talked about Homelander and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Overall, I just want to say, like, I have enjoyed every season of The Boys. It just got picked up again for another season. So congratulations to everybody involved in making The Boys, in putting together a phenomenal show.
It really is.
Yeah. And man, it's so good. And to be picked up for a fourth season, that's a big deal.
It is a big deal, because you could totally see how this would be just such a tiny little niche audience that they could potentially get like 7 views on this thing and be like, okay, yeah, that's enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I think it's, so the comic itself by Garth Ennis, right, is great. If you've never read it, like, go read it. There's clearly some source material stuff that's different, some changes here and there, but honestly, there's a lot of like stuff pulled directly from the comics in the show, like a considerable amount. There's some stuff that's been toned down from the comics.
Imagine that, folks. If you've only watched The Boys and haven't read any comics, that the show is toned down in some ways. That's pretty bananas.
Yeah, that is crazy to think about. I mean, like, it's like Homelander in The Boys is a much tamer version than what you get in the comics. So anyway,
one of the little nods to the comics that I really enjoy is that in the comic, the character of Huey is patterned after Simon Pegg.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
it looks just like him in the
It
book.
was designed
was-
to be Simon Pegg.
Right. Right. And now in the show, Simon Pegg plays Huey's dad. Like,
Yeah, I loved
I
that.
love that little
Yeah.
well, nod. Yeah, that little homage.
Yep. I loved it too. I thought it was great. I gotta say, so we've talked about Carl Urban a number of times, right? Because he's been in so many kind of like franchise or nerd universe movies, like
Yes.
the movie Dread, which I went back and watched not that long ago, and I liked it. I was like, man, I haven't watched that again in a while. He did a great job in Dread. He did good. He plays McCoy in the new Star Trek movies, which they're getting a fourth one. He's been in obviously The Boys.
He was Scourge in
Scourge in
MCU
Ragnarok.
Yeah,
he was in Lord of the Rings. Oh yeah, look it up. Lord of the Rings.
Oh my gosh, look at there.
Yep.
I don't know who the character Eomer is.
He was the horse rider leader that got banished from Helm's Deep.
Oh gosh. Okay.
He had very blonde hair.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So he's been in a ton of stuff. Honestly, prior
look at this. He played a stormtrooper in Rise of Skywalker.
Yep. Do you know how many people have done that, by the way?
Yeah, a lot.
There's a ton. Daniel Craig was a stormtrooper.
Right.
James Bond was a stormtrooper.
Yeah.
That's pretty epic.
That one I know.
I mean, for some of those guys, that's just like, one of those just like I just want to be just
for the fun of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this season, so Carl Urban's been in it from the beginning. He does a phenomenal job as Billy the Butcher. Jack Quaid does a great job as Huey.
Yes.
Erin Moriarty, absolutely fantastic.
She's really grown on me. Starlight. Like I really like what they've done with that character.
Yeah, she's come a long way. I gotta say this though, Tony Starr, who plays Homelander.
Yeah.
Wow, like just the level of like depth that psychotic character has.
He has a way of exuding malevolence
without being
that's somehow subtle.
Yeah.
100%. Despite the fact that he's, the least subtle thing ever, like he will burn you to death with his laser eyes. And yet somehow he's also, I don't know, like I said, I think he's just subtly malevolent.
Well, and not only that, so, like Billy, Carl Urban's character, Billy Butcher, is very clear in like what his motivation is.
Yes.
He hates Soups. He wants to bring him down. Like he has a personal issue with Homelander because Homelander had sex with his wife and she got pregnant and thought thought she died. And that whole thing, that storyline goes on forever until they find Homelander's kid. So, but Homelander, his character really ends up like, it is almost a tragic study in what happens if you take a child that is viewed to be as like the destined savior of a society, right? Going to be the apex of everything. Yeah. And then you isolate them.
Yeah.
Right. You take them out of a loving, caring environment and you put them essentially into a lab. Right. And train them. And
in this case,
yeah, literally, like he's essentially raised in a lab.
Yeah.
And he is chock full of emotional issues that are basically just driven from a need and a want to be accepted and loved.
Absolutely. Yeah. You take the nurture out of the nature nurture equation and it is not a pretty sight what's left.
No. Not at all. And now you've got a Superman level character,
Yeah.
God-like character.
The most powerful the most powerful being on the planet.
And holy crap.
Yeah.
There's no nurture in him. It's all just this fucked up nature.
Right. Well, and it comes down to, it seems to me, he cannot accept any sort of rejection.
None.
Or any idea that somebody somewhere doesn't like him. Like he's both flabbergasted by that and completely undone by the idea that somebody somewhere doesn't like him. Well, or that somebody else would like care about somebody else in addition to him. Even like I think about the Maeve character and how, oh, you can't possibly be with, I can't remember her partner's name, but
right, yeah,
you can't possibly. He's from Homelander's perspective. If you're with her, then you don't care as much about me as I need you to.
Right. It's all or nothing for him.
Yeah.
You can't love more than one. It's either all me, or it's none at all.
Yeah.
Like in his mind, it is an all or nothing situation. And he does not handle rejection. And to the point of what you said earlier, he will burn you to the ground, even if he, like, in his mind, believes he loves you.
Right. Yeah. Which is what he did in the first season. Spoiler alert. Oh gosh, I forgot about our standard Coffee and Cape spoiler alert disclaimer. Right. That as you obviously just figured out, here there be spoilers. So if you have not, we're going to talk about all 3 seasons at some point. So we're not holding back on any spoilers. So if you have not seen any of them and you not want them to remain unspoiled, you need to stop listening now and come back after you've watched them, please. Yeah. Otherwise,
I don't think we're going to talk about all 3 seasons, but
no, but I just mean stuff from any one of the seasons could come up is what I mean.
Yeah, totally.
So I don't mean to spoil that the Elizabeth Shue character gets
literally
burned.
He kills her.
Yeah.
Right.
Even though that's his mother, some kind of super creepy, like mother lover kind of.
Yeah. Right.
Like
and then
combo.
He like brings in the shape changer who becomes,
oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah.
Like even creepier and weirder and stranger. And, there's some stuff that is very cringeworthy that takes place in everything.
Every episode.
I mean, let's talk about Herogasm. Like that was an entire, by the way, in the comics, that's multiple comics. Like that Herogasm comic was multiple comics long. Thank God we didn't get multiple episodes of Herogasm.
Right. Yeah.
Because that was pretty traumatic.
Yes, it was.
It was like, dear Lord. But yeah, I mean, it's,
but here's what I appreciate about that. The whole vibe of the show is essentially human beings being as they are, flawed, and at our base, we can be selfish and greedy and petty and all the things. Like if you had those powers, at some point, some of those folks are going to do some of those things. Like they're going to try
right?
out,
I mean,
like, what does this power mean for me sexually? Like, I think it's pretty fascinating that they're willing to explore that idea.
I think it's great that they do, because, we grew up on comics that were very like bad guy, good guy.
Yeah. Right. That whole comic code thing that they
the comic code thing that
or whatever
came out. I don't remember when that came out, but used to see approved by the Comic Code Authority on like every comic. And then some things changed, right?
Yes.
And we started to see some things that got produced independently that didn't care about the Comic Code Authority. They were like, man, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to write what I want to write. But I mean, you think about it, like we were raised on Superman, the Homelander style character, but who was small town, raised by a loving family, understood like small town values, was, cared about his community, worked hard, did all these things, and did everything by the book in the right way. And we never questioned like what would happen if he lost his shit, essentially.
Yeah. Right.
Like just, I mean, until we got way later, right, in the Injustice storyline, where he
Which-
did.
Yeah, exactly. That went full blown. I mean, that's Injustice is about as close, I think, as either the mainstream comic creator, any of the mainstream producers, DC or Marvel, are going to come to something like The Boys.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a bunch of other stuff like we were talking about yesterday when we were working together. There are certain things that we just took as kids and even as adults as kind of just being okay, that if you really stepped back and looked at it might be a little questionable.
Yeah, right.
Right. And The Boys just goes down those rabbit holes. Like this is what happens. Like you get, I mean, look at Jensen Ackles, Soldier Boy character.
Yeah.
Right. That was so clearly modeled after Captain America, right? Definitely
yes.
a ramped up, souped up Captain America, but
even
modeled after.
Kind of like the ultimate version of Captain America from the Ultimate comics, and then even ramped up some more from that.
Yeah, because I mean, if you read the Ultimate comics from Marvel, that gets pretty close to this territory too. Right? You had
Hulk
a Hulk
eats people, for God's sake.
Yeah, you had a Hulk that eats people. You had a really odd kind of version of Thor that you didn't know if he was like just a psych, like
is he a crazy person or is he actually
crazy? Or is he? I
loved that take on Thor. I think that was fascinating.
Yeah, but and anyway. You had a bunch of other characters, but even Cap was kind of he wasn't afraid to throw a punch at somebody for being what he viewed as un-American and kind of a D-bag.
Yeah.
Soldier Boy goes a whole lot farther past that, though.
Yes, for sure.
With the drugs and alcohol, and I thought it was really funny in this last season, right? Because it's the only season that he was in, how they showed him like singing and doing Soul Train and all those kinds of things, which was I thought a little bit of a poke at like an aging Elvis Presley.
Okay.
Because there are some similar trajectories there to kind of like what happened to Elvis as he got older, and they started throwing him into these movies and he got hooked on pills and alcohol and everything else, and really started to deteriorate. People started to view him as kind of being a joke, almost, right? So there was definitely some Elvis, I thought, kind of rolled into his character, but Jensen Ackles did a phenomenal job with Soldier Boy in the show, and I hope we haven't seen the last of him. I hope he comes back around, because watching Butcher and Homelander kind of team up to take him down when they realized, oh, he's gonna hurt the kid.
Right.
Like,
and what a great way to bring Homelander and Butcher like on the same, like having to kind of work together, despite how much they hate each other.
Oh yeah, and it is deep, and they are ready to, like, they even said it in an episode, like scorched earth. Like, they're ready to go scorched earth against each other, and both of them are okay with it, right? Both of them are totally fine with the idea of going scorched earth. And while Butcher, they could have really done a thing where they made Butcher seem like the true, like, stand-up hero guy, and even Huey, right? But they introduced temporary Compound V,
right?
And what did that do to them, right? Butcher starts using it on a regular basis. Huey's hooked on the power too, and how it's an interesting thing, right? What is the saying about power, right?
With great power, there must also be great responsibility.
There's that, but
power corrupts, and ultimate power corrupts out, or absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah, absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? And you think about that, and it was a really good lesson on that through this season. Was you had all these people with power, and
what are you going to do with it?
And what are you going to do with it?
Like, and what it does to you, as you're saying, like the the addiction to the power, literally in this case, that, serves as the metaphor for, oh, I can't, I don't want to give up this power that I have.
Right. Yeah. Like they're trying to, like, Starlight tries to explain, like, this is going to kill you. It's going to turn your brain into mush. Your brain
Yeah.
is literally going to come out of your ears or your nose or whatever it is. Like, brain matter literally comes out of like Butcher and comes out of Huey, I believe, even at one point. And they're still like, I gotta
Nope,
use
more.
it.
Give me more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta use it. I gotta do it. I gotta do it. I gotta do it.
And they tell themselves, oh, it's for the mission, it's to complete this thing. Or for Huey, it's because I'm gonna help and save Starlight for once, and all that.
Right.
And yet she pokes through all that BS and is like, no, you're just addicted.
Yeah. Right. You're not doing this for me.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to do it.
Right.
You're doing this because your ego and because you're addicted. Right.
Yeah.
Which is very clear. He is innocent. It was an interesting thing, right? He was tired of being rescued because his ego, right, was starting to get bruised by the idea that he needed to be rescued, and he thought he should be the one rescuing. And then he gets a taste of it, and really it's no longer about being able to rescue, right? Like she points out, it's because he's addicted to the power, which has been the whole impetus for them fighting against the Supes the entire time. It's those guys became addicted to that power,
and they're not worthy of the power, and right away Butcher and Huey prove themselves also not worthy of the power.
Right. Because Butcher becomes a major asshole, like way beyond anything he had been before.
Yeah.
Right. And the justification started immediately.
Immediately. Yes, that's correct.
Right. It wasn't like, oh, he did good and started doing all these good things, and then slowly over time it corrupted. It was instantaneous.
Yeah.
Right. And the allure of that caught Huey. Right.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Like, Huey's like, I want in on that.
Yeah. It's like all of a sudden Anakin's long slide to the dark side seems actually like he did pretty good. He held off on that for a long time, whereas Butcher and Huey just went, yeah, I'm good. You guys got cookies? Okay. Come to the dark side.
Dark side cookies. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much here. Like
there's a ton.
I enjoy the laughing at the deep and how they play off the idea that, for a lot of people, Aquaman is a joke of a character, and they literally make the deep, terrible with his essentially raping of sexual assault of Starlight in the first season to now has
relationships with an octopus.
Yes. I can't remember what I was listening to, but I heard something or saw something where like a marine biologist came out and wanted to reassure people that that's not actually possible. I believe the quote was, "There's no actual orifice there, so don't worry, that's not actually a thing that can happen."
But I mean, it's God, society, really?
Right.
We're at that point. We have to tell people that.
Yeah. But, oh my gosh, that scene where maybe this was the second season. I watched 2 and 3 kind of back to back, so they blend together a little bit for me. But when they ram the boat through the whale.
Yeah. Season 2.
Yeah. And he's just so
traumatized.
Yes.
He's so proud of himself. He brought the whale up onto the beach and he's standing there, hands on his hips.
Yeah.
And they just plow through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was so graphic and so violent and somehow so great while also being so terrible. Like that's what this show does. Everything about it is so terrible. It's amazing and wonderful.
I really liked, we got to see some history of Black Noir.
Yes. That was fascinating.
Right. How he, had started out with Soldier Boy. And it was part of the reason like Soldier Boy gets taken away and hauled off by the Russians to be experimented on for decades and decades and decades.
Yeah. So kind of a combination of Captain America and Winter Soldier there, in a way.
Yeah. right, kind of becomes like Captain America and Winter Soldier. Black Noir is very clearly modeled after like Batman, though he
Yeah.
doesn't talk. Um, but we
Which
got to see
we
like,
kind of know why he doesn't talk now, right? Like he got mangled.
yeah,
I think he might not be capable of speech. I always
right.
thought it was just that was just his like his deal that, oh, I'm so mysterious I don't talk. But I think,
No, he got pretty mangled. Yeah.
yeah, I think maybe he's not capable.
And he's also clearly insane,
Yes. And well, or brain damaged for sure.
right? You see all the little animated
Oh my
characters.
gosh, that was
Was
so
brilliant.
brilliantly done. Brilliant. Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant, right?
And kind of heartbreaking.
Hmm. Very much so. Like and that's an interesting point, right? We grow, so it blurs the lines so many times between despising a character and suddenly having empathy for one,
Yes. Right.
right? So
Right.
Black Noir for 2 seasons, right? He's like Homelander's lackey,
Yeah.
bootlicker, best
Yeah.
friend, like whatever. And then you realize this guy is messed up,
Yeah.
like completely like messed up and has all these issues. You get Butcher, who's supposed to be like the hero against the Supes, and the Supes are all bad. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh, well, he's a piece of crap. Even though we're the first season, we have empathy for him because supposedly his wife's been killed and
Right.
was raped by Homelander.
Yeah.
And then you find out she's in hiding and has a kid, and he turns his back on like everybody because his
Yep.
ego is bruised,
Yep.
right?
100%.
He's suddenly like heartbroken and not dealing with it and puts up his wall. And you get A-Train. A-Train had a really cool arc this season.
He did.
Yeah. And everybody around him, right? And almost to that point of redemption, like almost to that point of redemption.
So close, and then can't
And
quite get
then it shows the level of like manipulation that the corporation that runs the Seven has,
Mhm.
right? A-Train's at that point, he's going to like he grabs that guy and runs, and it's essentially his final run because he knows his heart's going to explode.
Right.
But he catches the guy who essentially paralyzed his brother.
Yep.
I don't remember the
Who was
character,
brutalizing the black community.
who was brutalizing the black community, and he decides he's going to take a stand.
Yeah.
No longer, like, this isn't going to happen anymore. It really
Blue
seems
Hawk
too
or something. Yeah.
yeah, Blue Hawk, something like that. He apologizes to Huey, like genuinely apologizes to Huey during Herogasm, and he's like, you're right, I fucked up, and you're right.
Yeah.
And Huey's like taken aback by it for a second, and he's like, you don't get to do that. Like, that's not like, but it seems like A-Train's making that turn, grabs Blue Hawk, runs who knows how far, dragging him behind him.
Yeah.
Lays down, ready for his heart to explode, ready to die, like just call it.
Yep.
And then he wakes up in the room with a new heart from Blue Hawk, right? A new soup heart, essentially.
Yeah.
And he's no longer like,
and a new lease on life that doesn't quite go the way he'd hoped.
right. And a new lease on life that doesn't quite go the way he hoped, right? His brother rejects him.
Yeah.
Like, you have some empathy for him. He's gonna go back to being a D-bag, probably, right? He kind of makes that turn. He's like, he turns in everybody to Homelander.
Right. Yes. Yeah. You think he's going to be on the side of the rebels, as it were, but turns out he's a stooge for the Empire.
Right. Yep. And so, I mean, there were even moments of like empathy for Homelander. Like,
oh, for sure. Yeah.
when he's berating himself in the mirror.
Yeah. And he, as much as he's capable, he truly cares about his son.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that is abundantly clear. Like, that is his, in his eyes, that is his shot at being loved.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
And,
Right.
and proving that he is worthy of love, and he's going to do everything in his power to be the dad for that kid that nobody was for him.
Right.
And you think this might be how he turns the page, turns the corner, right?
Yeah. And there's a moment where it could have been a redemptive arc for Soldier Boy as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Soldier Boy's
Right.
having none of it. Like, it was right there
Because-
for him. It was right there for him to embrace the family. And he's like, nope.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Nope.
Finds out.
I forget, I think he probably says pussy. You're a pussy for, which is, well, but for caring about this kid or having emotions or something.
Right. Yeah. He finds out that he's Homelander's dad, essentially, because of the DNA, right?
Yeah.
And that he's grown in a lab and all this stuff. And Homelander's like, we're gonna have this family, like you, my dad, this is your grandson, me, like this is gonna be a thing. And for half a second, you think Soldier Boy's coming around, and then he's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I would never have a weak piece of shit, like, essentially is what he's saying, right?
Right.
I never have a weak piece of crap son like you.
But in Soldier Boy's mind, what makes him weak? What makes Homelander weak? That he cares about his son?
He cares about his son.
Like, what?
Right?
It's just, and that's, to me, that gets at the other level of brilliance for this show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as a tale about sort of good guys and bad guys, and how that's not so easily determined who's in which category. Like, it's a good, fun, entertaining show just on that kind of surface level.
Right.
But there is so much tremendous social commentary going on underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
That I just love that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like, and some of it's super unsubtle. Some of it's like just right there in your face, like literally naming the character Stormfront.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no way she's not a Nazi. Like, Stormfront is famously the top website for hate groups, for like KKK and other white supremacist hate groups. They named her Stormfront, for God's sake. Like, right. She was for sure gonna be that character. Or like all the stuff about like the embracing of fascism and the idea of, we have a former president who said, oh, I could shoot somebody on 35th Street and everybody would love me anyway. And the end of season 3, Homelander kills a guy in the midst of him, right in front of everybody, for the crime of disagreeing with him and criticizing him in public. And he burns his head off and everybody's clapping.
And everybody cheers. Like, everybody cheers. Like, and that's
well, there's that moment. There's a moment when nobody's sure, like, oh, how are we supposed to react to this?
Right.
And then terrifyingly, MM's ex-wife's husband
like
leads the cheer.
Starts leading the cheer.
Yeah.
And it's, man, and it's you're right, it's like a terrifying like study, and people can say whatever they want. Oh, that would never happen. Oh, that never, dude, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. There are groups that in around the world, not just localized to the US, but all over, right? Extremist groups, right? That think that kind of stuff should be happening.
Right.
That they believe that, and they're willing to follow somebody blindly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, blindly, because they're like, yeah, okay. Right. I mean, look at Germany in World War II. Jesus. Right.
Sure. And and that's sort of a piece of what I think was going on with the A-Train story there, that like he's the accommodator. He's the one that thought it would be better for him in the long run if he sold out people to the Nazis, or in this case to Homelander.
Right.
There are parallels to that story for how World War II came to be, and how Nazis came to power. Like, all of that stuff is operating at another level in this show, and I'm here for all of it. I think it's great.
Yeah, I totally. I'm real curious to see, the question you almost have to ask yourself is, you know, what happens though if somebody like hurts Homelander's kid from the group that he views as his supporters? Like, what if that
Mm,
happens? Right?
yeah.
He's clearly gonna burn everybody to the ground to keep his son, right, by his side. And we see, and this is what, right, this is where Butcher goes from good guy to, right, not so much. When he essentially like lets his ego, right, and his hurt over everything that happened with his wife causes him to be cruel to Homelander's son,
Yeah.
right? Who views Butcher as at
As
that
as a
moment
father
as
figure,
being
his
right,
father.
as being a
Yeah.
father figure.
Right.
And when Butcher turns his back on that kid instantly becomes Homelander.
Yes,
Like,
correct. Right. And that opens, yeah, absolutely opens the door for the kid to fall into Homelander's lap and
yep,
to like turn into, and you saw it at the very end, like the last little bit, the last little scene at the end of season 3, when Homelander burns that guy's head off. What's the kid's name? I forget, but he gives just the tiniest little smirk, like, okay, this is what we're doing now.
yeah, he makes it abundantly, like, it's very clear in that moment that he's like, oh, I like this.
Yeah, this feels
But
good.
at the same time, right, it's because all he's wanted, right, all he's wanted is to be loved and to be safe,
Right.
right? His mom's gone. He thought Butcher was going to take care of him. Butcher dumps him in a house, right, to
Mm,
be essentially guarded, all this other stuff. And when the person that he thought was going to keep him safe and keep him and love him, right, and protect him, suddenly isn't going to do that anymore and becomes cruel and uncaring, all of a sudden this psychopath
yeah. Yeah. There's a whole
who's
interesting human nature, human psyche character study being done there in a way,
yeah,
right? Like to what you just said, that the kid wants to be cared for and to be safe. And on some level, isn't that that's what everybody wants,
yeah,
I think.
and
And
that's it.
and
And
when he doesn't get it,
what
it does terrible things to him.
and this is how, in society people end up in these horribly abusive, codependent, destructive relationships, right? Because they have this giant hole somewhere that they feel they have to fill,
Yeah.
and they're going to fill it in all the wrong ways.
Yeah. And then we get into some generational trauma too, in a way, I think there. Like
Mm.
this trauma's been done to Homelander, and now it's the cycle's kind of repeating itself with, is it Ryan, maybe?
Ryan, yeah, that
Maybe.
sounds right. I think so. I can't find him on
I
IMDb.
don't know. I can't either. I'm looking too. Unless Ryan was the brother. I'm not
Yeah, I
sure.
don't know.
No, because he's in 11 episodes, so I think it's probably, anyway,
Yeah,
the kid. Homelander Jr.
Homelander Jr. Yeah. So I mean, and just we've talked about it, but there's so many amazing performances
Oh
in
gosh,
uh
everybody. Mother's
in
Milk.
this.
So would you say that Mother's Milk is kind of the moral center of this show?
I would say absolutely. He's the
Yeah.
moral center of this show because he, he doesn't have any powers. He doesn't want powers. He's rejected it
Right.
now a
Right. He
number of
resisted that.
times.
Yeah.
And, he's, man, he has taken himself, right. He's ashamed when he loses his temper in front of his daughter,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like ashamed, like to the point of tears and being afraid to be around her,
Yeah.
right? But then it's basically she's like, it's okay, I love you, like
Right.
you're
And I love this.
human.
Yes. Yes. And that was the key. Like toward the end of the season, where he sits down and he tells his daughter about her
All of
grandfather
them. Yeah.
and great grandfather and all that had happened and all the ways, like admits his flaws to his daughter. And man, I think so. Laz Alonso is the name of
Yeah.
the actor. I think he's fabulous.
Amazing. Absolutely. I think he's amazing. And, I also love the relationship between Frenchie and Kimiko.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I was gonna say
Right.
that too. And I like how it developed. If it felt fairly natural and organic the way that relationship has grown.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the love that those two share,
Mhm.
and how incredibly caring it is. It's not like a flash in the pan anything. Like they very much like they want to be there for each other and protect each other and care for each other, and are calling each other out on like, why would you do this? Like that's gonna hurt you,
Right.
you know. And it's just really great. Frenchie's had a great arc too, like seeing him go through his tortured stuff and going back to drugs, and then Kimiko like calling him out on it, like, why are you
Yep.
doing this?
Right.
Why are you doing this to yourself? And he's like, because I just like, I'm a bad person. She's like, no, you made mistakes. That's not who you are.
Right. And then that script sort of flips in that she's like, oh, I'm glad I lost my powers because it was my powers that made me do all these terrible things. And he's like, no, you're a good person with or without them. You have the ability to do some pretty amazing things, and you can use it well or not, but
Yeah.
like,
And
they
so
care
the
about each other.
heart, for me, the heart, if we had to call something like the heart of the show, like the heart and soul, that is like like kind of like the pure center. I feel like it centers around, there's 4 people that it really kind of can center around, right? So Mother's Milk, Frenchie, Kimiko, and honestly Starlight, right? Starlight, who has this desire to like truly like expose everything and do good, and doesn't want to be part of the 7 anymore, and isn't going to, like, finally is like, no, like, I'm going to go after this guy, and I don't care anymore. Like she is truly, at the end of the day, fearless.
Yes. Oh, that's a great word for it. Right.
Mm.
And she too had it's a different sort of trauma, but a kind of a very religious, oppressive religious upbringing
Mm-hmm.
that she's had to grow out of and expand beyond. And that's been
Well,
great to see too.
and she had that pressure from like the pageantry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
All the pageantry, man. How many times have we seen, like, in almost in mockery, but it's real, like these parents who have these little girls that they're like, I'm going to put you on the pageant circuit and you're going to become the next whatever.
And well, and then, again, back to the social commentary, like that's a way of this show saying all that stuff is crappy and does horrible things to girls.
Yep.
And it's usually about way more about the parents than the kids.
When we look at like superhero shows, right? And Marvel, addresses certain issues. They did a really nice job with addressing issues in Falcon and Winter Soldier, in terms of like what happens when you give like you had a Black Captain America, and how like how differently he was treated and everything, right? And so we see some of that, but man, I feel like The Boys just goes right at it.
We're going for all of it. All of it.
Like,
we're gonna laugh at and lampoon the Scientology. We're gonna that whole thing is pretty great.
Yeah.
But also kind of, there's a level of that where it's terrifying.
Yeah. So if we have to give the first 3 seasons overall, right, and a rating for it, in our patented rating system of underwhelmed, whelmed, or overwhelmed, I am like 1,000,000% overwhelmed in the outstanding writing, the acting, the special effects, the cinematography. Like it's really well done, directed. It's the stories are good.
Yes. Characters are complex and
super complex.
Yes.
Like supremely complex characters. I think that's probably, it's not like this one-dimensional superhero. It is.
There's not a single person. There's not a single character that's one-dimensional in this.
No.
Maybe other so Ashley, good. But
other
or
Ashley.
also Ashley.
Also Ashley. But yeah, it's just so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. I'm there with you. Absolutely overwhelmed. Love, love, love this show. It's not probably for everybody, you know. It's
Sure. Yeah,
if
no,
you're the
I would.
type that gets offended by language or
Extreme violence
extreme
or
violence or yeah,
sexual,
such
like,
right,
or,
right. It's got this
right.
show has it all,
It's
but
adult.
it is adult, it for sure. I'm sure it's, you know, TVMA, and it earns every little bit of that.
Hmm.
But gosh, is it worth it?
Totally worth it. Yeah,
It
totally worth it.
well, no, it's not just worth it. Let me say that better. To me, it never feels exploitative. It's never just
No.
like, oh, here's a male gaze view of you know, some woman's butt or whatever, or just gonna look at her chest, or like the whole thing with Starlight's costume. Like they do it in a way that subverts that idea.
Mhm.
That shows that, like, yeah, this is how she's, this is what how she's, how the masses want her to be presented, but we see like we see the dark side of that. We see like why that, the shadow side of that,
Yeah.
right? Like it calls it out rather than exploiting it. To me, it seems
I Yeah, and I really like the way that they explore trauma across the
like, oh
board.
my
Like
gosh, yeah,
the way it comes about for everybody is
yep,
different. Everybody's
yes,
trauma is different,
yep,
and how untreated and unaddressed trauma, the long-term impact of that in human behavior,
yes, 100%,
right?
100%.
Yeah.
This
And what isolation creates.
right. We're created for community. That's what I
Mhm.
believe. We are created for community, and when we're denied that community, it can create monsters out of us.
100%. Like and I think I used to talk about this in class sometimes when, at the gym, is that we get different hits of positive chemicals released in our body from certain things, and oxytocin is a scientifically proven chemical that is released through human interaction.
Yeah.
That's how it's released. Like giving somebody a hug, patting somebody on the shoulder, laughing in a group, having a shared group experience releases oxytocin. You can't generate that without community. And this shows like the, when you have high levels of trauma and then become isolated and then like isolate yourself and pull back even farther, and it becomes untreated, like the level of damage that it does on a society,
Mm-hmm.
like the impact that it has overall on a society, like, man, it's yeah, this is a very adult show, but I think is valuable to have younger people watch
Yes.
for that aspect.
I it I keep coming back to, I think it's brilliant. I think the show is
Yeah.
brilliant.
Hmm. I agree. And the comic is too. Like, go back and read the comic. The comic is
I've read a few.
obviously
I think I've read like the first maybe trade paperback, but I don't think I've gotten beyond that. So I got to give it a, I got to
so good.
give that a
So worth
shot.
picking up the trade
Yeah.
paperbacks for. I
Yeah.
mean, it really is. So, guys, if you're out there, guys and girls, if you haven't watched this, right? We always say, guys, it's like a fallback word. But guys and girls,
We
if
mean
you
guys in the
haven't,
non-gender specific sort of way.
yeah, if you haven't watched this yet, like, absolutely watch it. If you have watched it, and you think like we're way off base, like, drop us a line and let us know.
Yeah.
Tell us about your experience. Like, what did you like about it? Like, how did it hit you? What do you think about Homelander and his kind of character as it goes through Butcher, Starlight? We want to hear it all. So drop us a note in in the comments underneath the podcast, in YouTube when it goes up on YouTube, in social when you see the little thing for it in social, like everything. Like, just let us know. And yeah.
Awesome, everybody. Thanks for being on this ride with us. We love all you, our fans. So true believers, until next time. Bye.
Bye guys. Bye, Kevin Costner.